there were 6 tribes that made up the Iroquois Confederation in upstate New York in the 16 and 1700s. The Mohawks, the Oneidas, the Onondagas, the Senecas, the Cayugas, and the Tuscaroras. And in 1639, they had tortured and murdered a Jesuit missionary, St. Isaac Jogues, who had been ministering to their rival tribe, the Hurons, in southern Canada. And over the next few years, they murdered 8 more Jesuit and Jesuit missionaries and helpers of the Jesuits. So what did the Jesuits do? They sent missionaries to the Iroquois, of course. They sent missionaries to those tribes that had just murdered their brothers. And for a long time, they were not able to accomplish anything other than baptizing a few children who were on the point of death and baptizing those captives who were on the point of being executed. They didn't get any converts from the Iroquois in the first number of years. Why are you talking about this? Exactly. We're at the end of the year. We're at the end of 2024. And whatever happened earlier this year has happened. There's no way you can go back and change any moment from the last 364 days. What happened, happened. And yet, at the end of the year, the church gives us this first beginning. In the beginning was the Word. You see, God's outside of time. Time for God doesn't exist like it exists for you and me. So for God, there's no end and no beginning. It's all now. So, gentlemen, whatever may have happened this year, you are ending this year with the Lord. You are ending this year dedicating this last few days to the Lord. And that gives the Lord the last word for the year 2024. That lets 2024 be wrapped up in God's mercy. See, it wasn't useless that those Jesuit missionaries went just to baptize a few dying people. Each one of those souls was a soul that was going to live forever. And whatever had happened in that soul's life before that baptism, it was wrapped up in God's mercy. Let's let God wrap up in His mercy the year 2024 and begin 2025 in that same mercy. See, the light shines in the darkness, and the darkness does not overcome it. If you look back on 2024 and say, man, there were a lot of times where I was not with the Lord. There were a lot of times where I was not living according to what the God was asking of me. This is the day to hand that to the Lord, to allow the Lord's light to shine in that darkness. That's the wonderful thing about confession. And I tell people all the time that in confession, it's not like, you had one chapter, that was the chapter of your sin, and then the next chapter is the chapter of God's mercy. But when we look back now, God doesn't even see the sin because His mercy has transformed it. That's that light shining in the darkness. And the darkness cannot overcome it. So with these Jesuit missionaries, sooner or later, they began to see actually other people listening to their message of salvation. They began to see people converting, warriors leaving behind their warlike ways and embracing the faith of Christ. Pretty soon, there were whole settlements of Iroquois that were living Christian life with Jesuit chaplains outside of French settlements in Canada. The Word became flesh, and he made his dwelling among us. And we saw his glory. To all those who did accept him, he gave the power to become children of God. See, those Jesuits, they were driven by love because they were encouraged to make new children of God. Can you live today as a child of God? Can you live today? Begin 2025 as a child of God. Son of God, together with the Son. Let him dwell among you to begin the new year. I think that's a great New Year's resolution. And you've already taken the first step towards that because you came here. Gentlemen, God's mercy is powerful. And it wants to conquer the darkness in all our lives. And you know what? That's not enough. It's not enough just for you to live in the light. The next step is for you to become an apostle, to you to share that light with everyone that you find. Because remember, the darkness cannot overcome the light. Your light will become a sign for all those around you, and they will be enthralled by that light to become children of God. You know, in that same Iroquois village where St. Isaac Jogues was martyred in 1639, 10 years later, St. Kateri Tekakwitha was born. In the very same village where a priest had been murdered, a saint was born. They call her the Lily of the Mohawks. From the very tribe that had martyred priests, there came a wonderful soul totally dedicated to God. So, gentlemen, when you look out at society and you see darkness and you don't see any hope, remember that God is at work. And God is at work through you. You, like John, can be a testament, a witness, crying out, saying, this is the one that you've heard about. This is the one that you're looking for. And God will reveal himself even through you. That's what it means, gentlemen, to be a true Christian. Not just belonging to God, but becoming a messenger of God's goodness. Share the light that you received. Share the joy of being a son of God. Share the hope that comes from God's presence among us. All of this is what we learn through Christmas. It's not just an opportunity to enjoy some presents and some good food, but it's the message that God is with us and he will conquer. First in me and then in all of society, if we continue to bear witness.